Hello. Okay, today we're going to talk about making the weekends count, because I know that this is something that a lot of people traditionally can struggle with. You know, you can be good, if you want to say it like that, in the week, and then whatever progress you feel like you've made during the week all gets undone over the weekend. Okay, and I think it's quite helpful to think about two different scenarios for the weekends. One is either that we're trying to fit the same model as the week and thinking we should carry on doing the same things, and then we just can't. We feel bad about it. Or there's completely no structure and it just becomes a complete free-for-all. So one, we're putting ourselves under pressure to do something that probably isn't realistic. And in the second one, it's just go with the flow. Everything counts. All right. And in this little video now, I just want to sort of maybe give you some ideas about what you can actually do about it. One of the things that I find is quite interesting is the idea or the concept of having boundaries for your weekend. And boundaries just really mean having some rules or some guidelines for what is okay with you. A lot of women have boundaries in other areas of their lives or with the kids, and we don't think about actually being able to apply boundaries to other parts of our own lives, just to give us a little bit of a framework to work within that helps us make sort of better decisions that move us towards the goals that we're trying to achieve. You know, because if you want to have a healthy diet and eat well, if, you know, not everyone is trying to lose weight, a lot of this is about actually just improving the quality of your diet and being more consistent. You know, that seesawing between good weeks, terrible weekends, not only undoes your progress, but it's also just drives you nuts. It just creates a bit of a mental battle, and just that feeling of putting a lot of effort in the week, really feeling the need to kick back and relax now and again, and deserving that, but not actually getting anywhere for all of that effort that you're making all of the time. That becomes a really frustrating cycle that we get in. All right, so what to do about it? Well, firstly, I mean, I always go back to a journal because that's a great thing to do. You just have to spend a little bit of time deciding what your ideal weekend would even be. You know, when you say you've had a bad weekend, what are you comparing it against? You've got to have an idea of what your objectives are around the weekend. And the thing is with weekends as well, you know, our weeks can be quite predictable sometimes. We're doing the same things over and over, but weekends can vary. We can be away, we can have meals out, we can be sat at home. So you probably have to think about your weekends on a case-by-case basis and start to think about what's okay for the weekend that's coming up. Okay, and think about, you know, what do weekends mean for you? You know, is it an opportunity to include some treats, you know, because you want to have that variation, you want to kick back and enjoy things a bit? You can have that, you know, that's absolutely on the table. Or is it just the opportunity to maybe switch things up a bit and cook a bit more? People who might feel pushed for time during the week might enjoy having a little bit more time over the weekend to make something better. Is it about just not cooking at all and being out the kitchen and in a restaurant and just having a complete break for that? And all of those things are fine, okay? But make it considered. So I often talk about the idea between conscious eating and unconscious eating. Unconscious eating is where just anything goes, like we say. You just turn up, you have what you have, and you don't really think about it until after. But you always think about it after, if you've not made a good choice or not made the choice that you want. So it's about having a conscious plan. So, for example, it might be that you are going out for a special meal. Think about what, you know, you enjoy that meal. Do have whatever you want, have 3 courses if that's what's important to you. But you can actually balance that through the rest of the weekend by planning in some healthier meals or a good start to the day. And when you are going to enjoy something, the one rule I would say that you do have to follow is to actually make it count and to really enjoy it. You know, so often these weekends that become like a mini binge where we're just non-stop eating and just mindless eating, we don't actually pay an awful lot of attention to the food that we're having. So if you're going to have a treat, if you're going to have something special, if you're going to have things that you really enjoy or that just ring the changes, take your time, pay attention to what you're having and really enjoy them. pay attention to when you feel like you've had enough, and then you can stop. You know, some people feel like they can have a, you know, great big slab of cake in a coffee shop and it's too much. You know, you really enjoy it and you think, no, I've had what I've enjoyed. I don't need the rest of this. Leave it, take it home for later, you know, whatever it is. That's all, you know, a healthy attitude to being able to choose and enjoy nice things now and again. Okay. I'm going to give you a couple of maybe just scenarios that you can follow. So, you know, a good thing that I've chatted about with people recently in my one-to-one coaching is about being a little bit more relaxed about the timings. Quite often on a weekend, you have got a later start, or you can have a later start. And if your breakfast gets pushed back to say 9 or 10 o'clock on a day that you're going out for a meal, then you can actually make that work to your advantage. So let's imagine you have a meal in an evening, then you might try and go a little bit longer without your breakfast, have a really substantial breakfast when you do have it. So maybe you wait until 10 o'clock, yeah? And then before you go out for a meal, maybe you obviously want to be hungry when you get there because you want to enjoy that food. So you plan it then maybe that you just have a light snack in the afternoon. It could be a smoothie or some fruit or yogurt, something like that. And even nothing if you're not hungry. You know, if you're not hungry and you want to save yourself, then what's wrong with that? And then you go out for your meal and you enjoy it, okay? And when you go out for a meal, a useful thing to think about actually is having an idea of what you want to have. And to begin with, it can be easy to think about that in advance as well. I'll tell you why, because quite often, you know, it depends where you are, you can be in a restaurant with lots of choices and you're trying to have a conversation and you're scanning the menu and suddenly you sort of feel under a pressure to sort of make your decision and you do it and you make the wrong one. And the wrong one can either be something that you don't really enjoy or isn't your preferred choice, or it's a less healthy option than you wanted to have. And either of those, you know, are fine. It's about you making conscious decisions for yourself. Remember, that's really important. So you can feel under pressure and make the wrong choice in the moment, or you can be influenced by other people. Now, those people can either be directly influencing you and encouraging you to have something to make them feel better about their choices, or you can just see that everyone else is ordering chips or pasta or something heavy or the pizza and you were thinking of a lighter option, but then you feel pressured to go with what everyone else is having. All right. So, and that's a very well-known phenomenon, that you can be in that situation and you are influenced by the choices of the group that you're in, because as humans, we want to fit in. So a good plan is to plan that meal in advance, maybe give yourself a few options if you want to have a choice in the moment, but just have an idea of what your parameters are, what your boundaries are for what would make a nice meal, a nice special meal for you. And choose that so that you know that it's based on what you really want and not what other people or the situation has influenced you to have. Okay, so that's something to think about. The other thing as well is weekends don't just have to be about food. We live in a society where we are constantly marketed to. Our high streets are full of shops, our supermarkets are full of like special ready meal dinner type things for, you know, we're gearing up to the weekend. We're told that we have to have treats and have all these things, and you know, we're being sold to and marketed to all the time, and we can do other things. There's other things that make our weekends special: conversation, seeing friends, wearing different clothes, getting dressed up, having time for ourselves. Think about the things that you can do during the weekend that make it special for different ways. Getting a bit more exercise, of course. This, you know, it's spring, early spring now, so it's a lovely time of year to feel the light's different and the days are longer and we feel a bit more motivated and want to be outside. So think a little bit broadly about ways to restore yourself and treat yourself that doesn't just mean eating, okay? Which just makes me come on to another thing that I do always plan these little sessions and what to say, but we hadn't planned this one, but one of the things that we forget about is that we do need a break from really tough weeks. And weekend is a time where we do switch things up, the routine changes and we can take things a little bit easier. think about weekends as a way to really reinvigorate and restore you and help you recover from the week before and prepare for the week ahead. And think about the things that you need that really work for you that you can do during a weekend that would help you achieve that. And it could be earlier nights, not later nights. It could be more sitting down and relaxing. It could be a little bit of fresh air, really healthy meals. You know, there's lots of things that you can think of that you can use your weekends for as a recovery session. That's the way I tend to think about weekends, actually. Tends to be about recovery and relaxation. Another thing, but your weekends can be a really lovely balance of having treats and then also getting nice and organised for the week ahead. And I had quite an interesting weekend this weekend, and I'll just give you that as an example. It's not always like this because some things I like routine, but sometimes I get sick of just following the same routine all the time and just like to go a bit freeform. But this weekend worked quite nicely because on Friday night we had a really nice meal. We had pizza, we had starters, we had dessert, you know, and I'd eaten well Friday morning, Friday lunchtime, and then just decided to just relax and have what I wanted. Didn't go overboard, didn't have too much at any course really, just to allow myself to just have a little bit of everything. That worked really well for me. No guilt, just was ready for it, okay? But Saturday, we did what we talked about, where I had, you know, healthy breakfast, quite a small lunch because we pushed it back later, and then because we had the time to cook, made a really nice meal on Saturday night. Sunday was an exercise day or being outside. I'm training for a long cycling holiday, so we had a 2-hour bike ride, which again meant a late breakfast, being out all day, so didn't really have time to eat. And then had a really nice dinner with leftovers for a packed lunch today. And I also had time to do a little bit of meal planning so that I was organised for the week ahead. And that's going to make my week quite easy this week. So I've had a bit of everything, you know. I've had dessert, I've had pizza, I've had exercise, I've done a bit of food prep, I've had some light lunches, I've had some healthy breakfasts. You know, all of that adds up to a weekend where you feel great. And that's how you want to think about weekends. Make them work for you. But you have to know what you want and you have to know what works for you first. So figure that out and then you make a plan for how the weekend works around that. Okay, hope that's helpful. Always drop me a line if you want any ideas or you want to chat about things, you know, just to give yourself more ideas of you know, what works for you in your situation. Okay, bit of a long one today, longer than I thought, but it's a big subject and a good one to get right. Okay, take care. See you next time.